treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Brent and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Hello, hello. I was laughing because I saw a random YouTube comment on an older video today, and it was like, "Hey, what states are you guys from?" And I thought it was like just being sarcastic, but then I realized it was from the JCB interview. So like,
Um,
I don't think we announced like our intro for that. But anyways, got a good chuckle out of that.
it's the very first information you get every episode except that episode.
Exactly.
And then another
How's
comment that
everyone's?
said,
Oh,
another comment that said, "Why don't you guys ever come at us live?"
That's a lie. Yeah, sorry, it is recorded. It just old habits die hard. Sorry.
well, there was a lot of likes for the 24-hour episode, so maybe we have to do a live 24-hour episode. Oh, can you imagine? Oof.
Did you see the comment about macroscopic by chance?
Oh, about how your
My
our
word,
other big words.
my word is bolster, which I agree with.
Yeah,
I say bolster too much, and then Bryn was solved.
solved. I don't think bolster was ever a word I said in my life until this podcast, and now it just like flows. Bolstered by.
All right.
I got a few words like that from this podcast, like never said them before, and now it's just comes up in day-to-day conversation.
Yeah, if you're in like a work meeting and all of a sudden you say something's bolstered.
The
Yeah,
molten tone of a
definitely
tune,
happens.
a bee on a pistol. All right. Do you want to start us off with some quick notes and news, Bryn?
Yes, I have a quick update from North Texas Treasure Hunt. So a few months ago, he had done a hunt, and from what I hear, it was a success. And so there is going to be a new hunt starting in September, specifically September 5th at 11 a.m. This is PDF only, and so it's sent out via email. So just a few other details here. The treasure is valued at $1,300. It's a quick hunt, so he expects that it'll wrap up within a few short weeks. This treasure includes a base set Charizard card, PSA rated, a 1961 Mickey Mantle graded card, a graded Widow's Mite coin from biblical times. That's cool. 100 grams of silver. And so if you're interested, check out northtexastreasure.com.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll be talking about Joy's Serenade today, so a little bit longer discussion expected there. I think we're going to skip right ahead to Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Cody,
Yeah.
you kick us off for Horseshoes
One
and
other
Hand Grenades.
very quick piece of news first from Blake. Blake has a new nickname,
What's
Mhm.
that?
B-Take.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying. So for everybody that's watching, like Bryn and I
Oh.
are in the wrong position, and I could not have Zoom fix that. So then it's like, oh, you could have Zoom sort it by your name alphabetically. So I tried to trick it, and it still didn't work. So for everybody that thinks it's annoying that I'm in the upper left, I agree. It's very hard to look at the screen right now because it's out of sync. But sorry, I can't fix
That's
it. I
so
don't know
funny.
how. So
I thought it was just a typo, and I was going to make fun of you for the
it's
typo.
not
But
a typo.
you did it on purpose.
It was a strategic. I tried to be sneaky, and it still didn't work out. So, all right.
B-Take.
Horseshoes and hand grenades, Cody. Don't get distracted by my
I'm
B-take.
sorry. Yeah. All right. Two quick notes about this Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. One is that I put this together a little while ago, and I tend to not do very well when I put together a presentation and then revisit it later because I forget a lot of my own thoughts. Second quick caveat here is I think this is going to annoy Bryn because it has to do with
Awesome.
Pokemon Box, and it's going to be mostly stuff she's probably already told me at some point. But I'm going to talk a little bit about cicadas, and I don't think anything I'm going to say is like going to be new or any new news or anything. But it feels very like I was looking into it a bit, and it feels very Occam's razory. It feels very like satisfying to me. This like idea and approach and potential solve. Um, let's see here. Where's my button? So I titled it Pokemon Box Cicadas, an Occam's razor approach.
TM.
TM.
Trademark.
So I thought there were three very strong and clear in my mind connections to cicadas in the book. Which is the first one is obvious, which is the Ninjask, which is the Pokemon in the narrative that's based on a cicada. And he says, though I will never forget that the Ninjask were everywhere. So this is where he's talking about going to hide the box when he's going with Froakie to hide the box, and saying that the Ninjask were everywhere when he is in the area of the final hiding spot. So that's a pretty clear connection to me for cicadas, potentially. The second one is jarfly. So cicadas are known as jarflies. And I think that is a really good and potentially like clear, crisp explanation for why JCB repeatedly keeps talking about this jar of flies in the narrative when he says, but I did pick up a jar full of flies from the local pet store to bring with us for a snack. And he says, maybe the flies weren't really his preferred food. And then he said, so I bowed to my friend in appreciation and left him the jar of flies. So I think that repeating about the jar of flies 3 separate times, and the fact that jarfly is like a common name for a cicada, that seems like another just like really clear, crisp, strong connection. Shouldn't have to like persuade anyone too much there, I don't think. And then the last one
was that, sorry to interrupt, but was jarfly like a regional name for cicadas? I feel like it was, but I can't remember where specifically. Sorry, you can keep going and I can
skip ahead
Google.
real quick. Jarfly is a slang term for cicada. I remember like I did sometimes you put something into AI and it'll tell you what you want to hear, right? I've done that a handful of times where I'm like, hey, is this a thing, AI? And it'll be like, yes, of course that's a thing. And if I ask it later, it'll be like, no, that's not a thing. I'm sorry. So I remember I did like triple check that one in a lot of different ways to make sure that it was like a fairly common thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I just couldn't remember if it was like specific to a certain region. But so I just looked up, it says to the southern US and the Appalachian region. So, I mean,
which kind of makes sense because that's where they are, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep. So I think that would even bolster your argument.
Oh, it's so bolstered.
If you took a real macroscopic view of it.
So then the last one is, I think it's another really clear, crisp potential solve connection explanation for the place to place or time to time excerpt in the book that like feels very much like a hint where he says we left the box not far from a place where locals turn up from time to time. Seems like so cicadas kind of burrow down, they all wait and time everything out, and at the same time based on the different broods when they're ready to emerge, they all are underground and they turn up, they all come out together.
Very nice.
So that feels
science.
that feels like very like a clear, satisfying explanation for a place where locals turn up from time to time because they're local to that area, which we'll talk about in a second about what it means to be like local to an area. And then from time to time, them turning up. It's like time to time, the cycle, the local of an area is like the broods to a specific spot. I don't know. To me, it just seems like clear Occam's razor. If someone pitched this as a solve, I'd be like, yes, I'm on board. That makes sense to me. And again, I don't think any of this is particularly new. In fact, I know none of this is particularly new, but I feel like it gets scattered around so much, all these different ideas. And then sometimes when you just still it down, it's just like seems very clear. Mm-hmm. So here's just some indisputable proof because of my AI overviews that the Ninjask is based on a cicada and the jarfly is the slang term for the cicada. And then this is the map I found online that talks about the different broods of cicadas, and they're typically on a 13-year or 17-year schedule for when they all come up and emerge. And there's a handful of different broods there. And what I find particularly interesting is like how well documented, how isolated each brood is, and how well documented where they are is. And they're all on these different cycles. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner that they've got, brood 10 emerged in 2021, and like brood 1 is going to emerge again in 2029. So it's all like very mapped out and whatnot. So my main thoughts are, we talk about how like the thing about JCB is saying that if you're local to the solve area, you're not going to have an advantage compared to someone else. And how like the implications of that are like you can't be using like a trail name as the hint, or a street name or something like that, or a statue, because someone might live a mile from that statue and see it every day and you got this big advantage. So it's always like interesting to think of unique ways to narrow down a search area based on something that would be like widely available to everyone. And I feel like this like does that really well. I think this would be like potentially a way for him to narrow down the Pokemon box to maybe like 1 or 2 states, like maybe 1 or 2 half states or 1 full state or something like that kind of area range. It's well documented, and it also lines up like all of those different brood areas like perfectly line up with that circular route he talks about from North Carolina to New Orleans to Houston back up through the Ozarks. So that's like quite a coincidence that he's talking about cicadas in the narrative, and then that just happens to line up so perfectly with the route too. So then my thought was the obvious way that this would be used would be to figure out like what brood you need to be referencing to narrow it down to that area. So like if it's this purple one, if it's brood 5, then it's just this area that we can narrow it down to. So then it is, how would we do that? So there's either the brood, which at least in this graphic is indicated with Roman numerals, which had me really excited because I thought, is that why he's using Roman numerals for the part 2 chapters when he was using just normal numbers?
Why did you use Roman numbers in the front of the book and Roman numerals in the back?
Oh, I wish there was a really nice, like interesting answer, but that was a complete design choice by the gentleman who designed the book.
Gotcha.
Yes. Well, I wasn't going that route anyways. I said it was just something that came to mind. I was excited, but it didn't make sense because this is chapter, what was it? Like 24? It's the first one?
I think it's
anyway,
the second one. Yeah. But regardless,
the broods only went up to, I don't even remember, but I think it looks like 23. So I was bummed there for a moment. But anyway, it could be either the 1 through 23 number for the brood that we're supposed to reference, or it could also be the year that we're supposed to reference. So obviously, I mean, I think the clearest one would be if he's talking about that cicadas were all around when he was hiding the box. I would assume he was hiding the box in 2025. I don't know. Is that something that we have like confirmed? I think it would have to be that though, right? Unless he hit it like almost a year in advance.
I think it was quite a bit earlier than that.
Oh, was it?
I think so.
Well, that might be good news because I didn't think I liked 2025.
Okay. Maybe 2023 or 2024. I think somebody has the answer out there. So if you could put it in the comments, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know. Because what was this? 2025 is brood. What's that? 14. Anyway, this area, what's that? North Tennessee. Oh gosh, I live on the West Coast, so don't make fun of me too much when I have trouble with this. It's like Tennessee and Virginia, right? Virginia above Tennessee?
Kentucky.
Oh, dang it. They look the same. No. The same shape.
Oh, no.
Edit that part out. We're all the way over in Washington.
I always remember it because of like Kentucky Fried Chicken on top of the tray, because Tennessee is like a tray, flat.
Nice. But yeah, 2024 would be further northwest. And if you hit it even earlier than that in like 2023, I'd have to do the math then. I have to do the math on that. But anyway, long story short, I think it's a really interesting way of narrowing down things in a way that's clear, interesting, kind of is in line with a lot of the things that JCB has said. And then my final notes were, well, I wanted to mention that I'm aware of the Cicada 3301, that kind of quote unquote treasure hunt that wasn't really a treasure hunt. Just wanted to mention that so that no one needs to comment and tell me to look at it. I don't think it has anything to do with this treasure hunt.
It's a alternate reality game, ARG. Is that what that is, Cody?
Kind of. I think people are trying to make that statement or that connection that it's kind of an alternate reality game. But I don't know. I don't want to get into the Cicada 3301 thing. I'd be very, 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 very surprised if there's an element of that in the Pokemon box, at least.
So I really like your thinking on this. Actually, while you were talking, I went the other direction, and I think maybe my logic is flawed, but I'll tell you the outcome anyway. I was thinking because we can figure out Jon's birthday, which I believe is 1971, and then 5.5 years later would be 1976. 1976 is if you go back to your map, it's Brood 23, I believe. Yeah, 23. It's a 13-year cicada cycle. That was the 1976, which is kind of that dark green in Arkansas / Tennessee / Mississippi, which is interesting. But then you're right, when he was hiding the box in modern times, that wouldn't necessarily fit that logic. So anyway, that's what I came up with for 1976.
I did also do some stuff based off his birthday too, and then adding the 5.5. And then you can also see my text down there later, because he said 5.5 and did that whole story, and then said almost 40 years later in July 2016.
Nice.
When he went to the wedding. So I was playing around with all those numbers quite a bit.
Okay.
And I never felt super comfortable with it, because I feel like if he wanted us to use his birthday, if he wanted just to use his birthday as part of a legitimate solve, he would have maybe not even said his birthday, but made something more clear within the book to be able to like find that information out. I know we know his birth month from the birthstone, but I don't remember him ever saying anything that like where we'd be able to figure out that it was that 1973.
Did he not say that in the past and future box that he and Ernest Klein were born on the same year? I could be Mandela.
Ooh, I think that is right, actually. Okay.
Let's see. I don't know if that's correct. I'll look it up, but.
And then that would, assuming that's true, which actually that does sound true to me now. I think I remember that too. But then there's the whole, if part 2 boxes are truly standalone, do you need that information from past and future to be able to solve Pokemon box? Which is a whole nother can of worms. The last thing I wanted to talk about was I have a potential explanation for why he would use the phrase "I was 5.5 years old" instead of just 5 years old.
Okay.
And I can't decide if it's smart in a way that's going to be helpful. I think it's an interesting thought. So when I was doing all this playing around with the numbers of 1973, the year he was born, and then adding 5.5 and playing around with that number, and then adding 40 years or almost 40 years to get to July 2016. I was basically trying to make it, I was hoping that some way of playing around with those numbers would get me to where like it hit on the same brood on multiple cycles, like 13 years between them or 17 years between them. Anyway, it led me to thinking if he wanted us to be able to ascertain a certain year, then saying he was 5 years old would not accomplish that. And saying he was 5.5 years old would accomplish that. Because you'd be 5 years old over the course of 2 calendar years, unless you were born at midnight on January 1st or something.
Mhm.
And you'd be 5.5 years old during only 1 calendar year.
Okay.
So like for me,
Okay.
I was 5 years old, was born in 93, giving out too much personal
Oh,
information. I'm
boy.
gonna get doxxed. I was born in 93. So I was 5 years old in 1990. I would be 5 years old in 1998 and 1999.
Okay.
So I was only 5.5 years old in 1998.
Okay.
So if he was trying to lead us to just 1 year,
Mhm.
saying 5.5 years old would allow us to do that. And saying 5 years old would not.
Okay. I like that.
Possible explanation
It's
for
a
phrasing
poss-
it that way.
Possible
I
explanation.
like that point as well.
I don't
Oh, thank
think
you.
he says the exact year. He matches Ernest Cline and Halliday.
Mm.
And I was saying 1971, but I think that's wrong, and I apologize. I think you're right that it was maybe 1973.
I thought it was 73, yeah, but
yeah.
I haven't looked at this in a couple weeks now.
I think you're right. So, my apologies. Good idea. I like that idea.
Thank you.
It bolsters that.
Yeah, I think my 5.5 thing was something new and something I kind of like. Everything else was a lot of just repackaged, I think, information that's already available and probably things that Brenda has told me a million times, but it helped make it more clear and concise in my head. Hopefully, maybe for some other people too, but I think it's a very valid potential part of a solve.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
I think with like the fresh perspective of how you presented it, I think what I like is connecting it to the where locals turn up from time to time. So I've been like I've gone through that so many times, making connections with turn to like the wheels and rolling, because that seems to be prevalent in the chapter, and then like the turning over rocks and river beds, and like each one of those little parts seems to have like a tie to other things in the chapter. So I don't think I'd thought of it as like macroscopically potentially connecting it to the cicadas. So I like that approach. I think that's good.
High value, Cody. High value. All right.
A new praise word, new praise term from Blake.
High value.
I prefer very excellent.
Very excellent. Okay. I think Britt and I each have a quick horseshoes and hand grenades. Mine's super quick. I was thinking about Smitten the last couple weeks, and I was thinking Smitten because it's in the book a couple times, and Smit also, which I feel like is not really a word that's used commonly. And I'm thinking about Wisconsin/Michigan. Could Smitten be a reference to Southern Mitten, South Mitten, or South Mitt? And it could be the southern part of Wisconsin or the southern part of Michigan. High value.
I did like, I mean, I immediately, as a joke, I kind of said like, oh, it has a mitten in it, like the little mitten.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be totally opposed to it.
Yay.
I do think if Mitten is supposed to be like a state, I do think that would have to be Michigan. Just because that's like the Mitten state. I think like Wisconsin can kind of like play off of Michigan in that way, but interesting.
Thank you. Bryn, you also have a horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah, I keep thinking about this Dewey Decimal System. It's driving me crazy. So this is on page 28. And so I thought today, like, what would the categorization be for this TTI book in the Dewey Decimal System? Like maybe there's something clever there. So the closest I could find was 793.9, which is puzzles, games, and treasure hunts.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. Like I don't think it would be specific a clue for the book, the TTI book, because the quote is, I walked to the student library and using the old classic Dewey Decimal System, searched for books that would give me statistics on careers. Which stats was I looking for? Only one. I wanted to know which career paid the most. So it felt like he was, specifically referencing the Dewey Decimal System in regards to this specific book. So then I was like, well, is there a category for like this kind of career earnings and stuff like that? So the closest would be 331.21, which is wages and earnings. Sorry, I'm just trying to decipher my notes here. Wages and earnings use this when the book is primarily about salaries, pays, levels, earning comparisons, or highest paying occupations. So that felt like a good match to what he was referencing. So that was 331.21. So I thought, well, what could you possibly do with that if that's supposed to be the clue? So I looked up area code 331. That's the western suburbs of Chicago. I looked up a 33121 zip code. That says it's a designated postal code used exclusively for post office boxes in Miami, Florida. And then I looked up, here's my coincidence of the day, longitude 331.21. So that would have to translate into minus 28.79 west. So is it a coincidence that this is on page 28? I think that's pretty bad, but it was a good coincidence. Anyways, I don't think this is maybe where he's going with like trying to find a specific reference to this book that he actually looked at, but it's just been driving me nuts. Like, how are we supposed to be using the Dewey Decimal System in this book? Or it definitely could just be some broader clue of like categorization, sorting. I don't know. But it was just kind of like a little light bulb moment I had today. Like, oh, I haven't looked into that yet. That could be a clever way to hide some numbers.
Good idea. I'm glad you're thinking about the Dewey Decimal System. Should probably be in the clue tiers.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it. I like that line of thinking, even if it didn't come up with something fruitful. But yeah, I haven't thought about alternatives to Dewey Decimal in a while, so glad you're putting it back on the radar. Right. Should we dive?
You know what I'd call that?
What's that?
I'd call that high value.
High value. All right. Let's dive into mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
Bryn, you have some mailbags for us?
I do. So the first one's from Floydian Slip. So this is part of like a longer comment, some great feedback and commentary, but I just picked a short excerpt here. And so this is commentary on a few things that they thought that could be added to our tier list, which I know we were excited to get some feedback to then implement that in rounds moving forward. So they said, along with your S tier, I think those things include Joy's Serenade, the Dust Jacket poem, the relationship to Invari's ring, some formatting items such as the headers from chapters 9 and 13, the disgruntled Rose story. Yes.
Nice.
The inclusion of the Apotheosis of Hercules image, the pickaxe and the shovel logo, and most of the AI images. So this is good. I mean, I think like we don't necessarily need to dive into all of these right now, but I do think this is a great reminder of like, yes, we know we were definitely aware that we missed some stuff. And so it's great to get fresh eyes on like some things we can be doing moving forward. And I liked the different perspectives that people wrote in about too, with kind of just like how they would be creating different categories, or like what are the names of these things that we could be adding to our list. Like the formatting is something that I think could definitely be like its own bucket. I like adding the Rose story as its own thing. The pickaxe. Yeah, I mean, they're all great. So I definitely think we can keep a list to contribute to this tier list moving forward.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that tier list. and I felt like it was very enlightening. So I'm excited to do that again and add more stuff to it as well.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to last video's comments section to catalog everything, because there was tons of great comments on there with ideas. Hand theme wasn't on there. Somebody mentioned hand theme wasn't on our list. There's also good comments just generally, like fire, flame as a theme, but what's the clue associated with that? And I think that's good feedback as well. And it's like, we don't know yet.
Yeah. When I was first setting up those different tiles, I was going to color code them to like, this is something specific. We can point to like this sentence or this exact line stroke in the book. And then this is something more conceptual or thematic. And then it was like, all right, and now this is one, like an overarching one, like missing page 90. And then here's like 3 sub theories of like splits the book in half, or minus 90 is coordinates. And then it just like, it became too much. So I had to try and simplify it.
For sure.
But I'd be definitely open to trying to like almost have different, you can almost have like different tier lists for different types of clues, like very specific clues, or like a themes tier list kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm building out kind of slides on 3 different solves at the moment. So I feel like in the future, attaching those clues to, some subset of those clues to different of these 3 solves. And the 3 areas I'm focused on right now are Olympic National Park.
Nice.
Wisconsin, generally. And I have a couple things narrowed down that I like. And then St. Louis. So those are kind of the three solve areas that I'm working on, and that I would like to use your clues to attach to those, and maybe we'll get some sort of consensus out of that. But again, that will be a future episode when we revisit this again.
Next mailbag. This came into the mailbag. This is from Tracy. She says, hello, BB and C. I attended the annual convention of the National Puzzlers League this weekend. And Mike Selinker, the author of Puzzlecraft, was there. Nice. He was aware of TTI, but not aware of your podcast and the fact that you were featuring sections of his book in Puzzle Corner.
Puzzle Corner.
I got him up to speed, so it's possible he might drop you a line at some point. Although I can't promise that. He's a busy guy. Don't fanboy and fangirl too hard if he does.
All right.
I thought this was excellent news.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
That's like a famous person.
It is.
Like Selinker. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't watch this. I tried to accredit him every time, right, when I say the book. So hopefully he doesn't get mad that we're not just stealing his content, but we're crediting that book very heavily.
Fair use. Totally fair use. Hopefully we get in touch with him so we can mail him our copies and he can sign them.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I was going to say, we need to have him as a guest on the show so we can have him record a soundbite doing his own Puzzle Corner. It would be epic. I love it.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's really cool.
This next one is from Gdoc 1479. They say, I'd like to petition for the published date to be bumped higher. The date is 10-21-24. Backwards, it's 421201, or as a not exact GPS coordinate, 42 north, 120.1 degrees west. This point is 2 miles from the California-Oregon-Nevada triple state border. Since the hunt technically was supposed to start on this date, maybe this is our starting point. If so, then chapter 1 being about 120 carat sapphire, so that ties back to the 120.1 west, and his 3.5-year-old son, 42 months, which would then tie back to 42 north, would fit well. So I thought that was pretty clever.
That's good.
This is just a burn note. Do either of you know what the 42nd state is?
I believe I've seen it in the comments or mailbag that it's Washington.
It is Washington. So that could be a cool. I just was thinking like, if 3.5-year-old son is supposed to then be a clue to months to get us to 42. That feels pretty hot out of the gates if that's what that was, but thought that was fun.
Very nice.
Okay. Oh, there's a little bit more here. Sorry, on to the next page. He says the Back to the Future connection is the Easter egg. Another fun fact, the actual release of the book, 11-12-24, when he reversed and made GPS, also falls within 2 miles of a different triple state intersection. So kind of a fun coincidence there. If it could potentially more than a coincidence, but I liked that. I thought that was very clever.
I don't know this as a fact, so I'll need help from the audience, but I feel like books typically come out on a certain day. Like movies come out on a certain day, video games come out on Tuesdays, I believe, usually. I'm thinking that books probably come out on a certain day of the week, typically, so I don't know how much control JCB would have over dates, but people could tell me I'm wrong on that. And maybe it would bolster the idea if it were an atypical, if books typically come out on a certain day of the week and JCB made his book come out on an atypical day of the week, then maybe that would be evidence for. So I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, it feels like something where if that was the case, we would have heard of it by now. It seems like it would really jump out at people who know books better than we know books.
I feel like somebody did. I think there was a mailbag at one point that we read, where someone had some sort of publishing experience, and they kind of spoke to that a little bit. And now I can't remember, so I'm not adding any value. But it could be a good call to action to get refreshed with that info.
Great.
Okay, my last mailbag is from our friend SomeSeanGuy Sean. He said, "Hey, your friendly TTI nemesis here." For you Wisconsin Lion Shares enthusiasts out there, here's a location right at the 45th parallel. So when the three of us hung up from our episode last week, I feel like I can't even remember. It was 12:30 in the morning, but we kind of zoomed in on one part that we're like, oh, this area looks interesting. And I think it was about when we were talking about the French words, kind of being a conclusion. And then I had he talks about the boxes in their final resting spots, which kind of feels like a death thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so he says, recall the other connections to 45 degrees latitude, halfway between the North Pole and the equator. Check out the Door Peninsula, named for Doors of the Dead, and Washington Island. The island is literally named after George Washington and has tons of Scandinavian/Viking architecture and inspiration. You have tons of shipwrecks and Doors of the Death area and a number of other significant connections. I could write 20 pages on this area. Take a look if you're a Wisconsin solver. So I just feel like when I read that, I'm like, I think we were just briefly looking at that after our last episode. So I wanted to throw that out there if anyone is interested in that area. Endorsed by SomeSeanGuy Sean.
Cool.
Is it some guy Sean? It's some Sean guy. Have we done this?
Some Sean guy.
I know. And then I typed it out and I said, oh, I'm actually typing it out the right way this time. And I still did it backwards. It's like muscle memory at this point. I'm sorry. Some Sean guy.
All right. Let's dive into Discord Detectives. Bryn,
the audio
yeah,
the audio's so crisp.
I know.
You guys say the same thing.
You can hear it this time because I put it on music for Zoom. So
nice. Your audio is very crisp as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we'll just keep it like this from here on out.
Yeah, normally we can't hear. We hear gurgled intro music on our end. So Zoom decided to give us better audio, but now we can't reorganize where our faces are.
Zoom giveth and Zoom taketh. Okay. Hello, it's me. I also have Discord Detective. So this is from I was gonna say a new YouTube channel, but I don't know how new it is. New to me. So this is from Real Treasure Adventures, and Real is spelled Reel. She has like a director chair behind her, so I think there's some clever pun there, and I'm not quite sure at the backstory. I'll have to do investigating.
Nice.
But she was making connections. In her video, she was connecting, and I will say I only got a chance to watch part of it, so I apologize if I'm missing some of the context here, but she was connecting Olympic themes to the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics in this video. So starting out with chapter 14, so chapter 14 of the book discusses Tiffany & Co., and she was saying that they created the medals for the 1980 Olympics. So then if we think about chapter 16, this is the Nigerian soccer team winning gold, which is a huge underdog story. So she's making the argument that she thinks this connects to the 1980s Olympics because of the miracle on ice, which is another huge underdog story. So what I really like here is her discussion around the use of the word miracle. So I was going to say John again. Whoa. JCB uses miracle 4 times in chapter 16. I don't know why it just sounds so weird to say John. So the 4 times that he says miracle in chapter 16 are, heck, it's a miracle you and I are alive at all. Without a similar odds-defying miraculous happenstance, none of us would exist today. As discussed, to be born at all was a miracle for sure. A person might call these occurrences miracles or chance or luck, but I don't much care. So I don't think any of us had picked up on the use of miracle so many times in that chapter.
No.
So it's her argument, and like, please go check out her channel, check out this video. She's making connections then back to Miracle on Ice to relate back to the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics.
Interesting.
Yeah, any immediate comments there?
Just trying to think of other pointers for I mean, that's a lot of instances of miracle. What about connections to ice? I think the only thing I can think of is Washington crossing the Delaware, where it turned to ice. But so I'm going to have a look for some pointers in that section or other references to ice, I guess.
So that was kind of my little intermission, but then I'm going to be connecting this to the George Washington chapter, actually. So that's an excellent connection.
Interesting.
So then she also says in chapter 17, there's another miracle connection. The very fact that Washington's army survived the first few months of the British invasion were undoubtedly a miracle. So I thought that it was interesting that we had these miracle heavy 16 also then ties into 17. And then I felt like, well, there's really it feels like a connection here between these 2 chapters and like this idea of odds, because I remember the Washington chapter being like rolling and odds heavy. So I pulled together those quotes between these 2. So we had, from a strictly statistical perspective, Washington was rolling the dice as if George Washington had a 6th sense that his life was playing out in a defining role. So I was kind of tying that back to rolling the dice. An astounding and unlikely victory, but Washington wasn't just lucky, yet Washington's plan was downright improbable. So it feels like there's a lot of themes there between like the odds of this happening, chance or luck. So it's been really interesting, and again, that you said, the ice connection as well. But anyways, the main takeaway here is I really loved the call out of this use of miracle, because I hadn't heard that discussed before.
Agreed. Yeah, chapter 16, the Nigerian soccer team, like that is any instance of odds, like the term odds is in that chapter, and it's in there a lot. And both the quotes to start the chapter are both about odds as well. And then we have that sperm and egg scenario with the odds. Like, he's kind of just in your face with the odds talk there. So I like that that's connected now with miracle. Miracle, the next chapter. I like your connection with the dice, Bryn. It's a good reminder. Something there. Something there. Cool.
Yeah, so
Right.
a reminder again, check out Real Treasure Adventures.
Excellent. All right. Should we dive into some discussion about Joy's Serenade? You guys ready?
I forgot I had a good coincidence of the day, but I have to
Oh.
put it together and I forgot to do so. So now I have to
Okay.
wait till next time. Also,
Next week.
Bryn's trying to push me to make it a horseshoes and hand grenades because she
Really?
thinks it is elevated beyond coincidence of the day.
Okay.
It's definitely too good to be a coincidence of the day.
Interesting.
It's better than us getting a Froakie out of a Pokemon vending machine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
I will say for Joy's Serenade, I've done a lot of looking into it. I feel like I'm as interested to see how this discussion goes, even from me, my part of discussion, as I'm sure you guys are, because I feel like I kind of slipped into madness a couple of times,
Mhm.
where I just got like the yarn and the tax, and I'm just all over the place, like, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this, and then some things
You were
felt
that
like,
meme.
yeah, some things felt like good and crisp and clear, and then I started going down these rabbit holes, and I'm interested to see how this goes, and if anything I say, how much of it makes sense and how much of it is just ridiculous. So don't sugarcoat it. When I say, don't just say, oh, that's good, that's good. Let me know what you think is actually good and what's like, all right, I need to just scratch that, because I think there's some of that here for me in this discussion for sure.
Okay. And yeah, I feel like I did quite a bit of research and I'm still not satisfied that I've done all the research that I want to. So we might have to revisit this next week or in a future episode as well. Like I'm not satisfied with what I've collected so far. So I don't know if you guys feel that way as well, but
100%. I feel like my notes are kind of all over the place right now, and I didn't have time to pull them all together. And I also used the last couple stanzas are just going to be boots on the ground trick because I didn't really have time to get to those ones.
That's what I did as well.
You'll see like a lot more information, a lot more research in the first stanzas, and then it kind of fades because it was just too much to go over. Ran out of time.
Okay. So we'll just consider this a Joy's Serenade Part 1 with an unknown whether it's going to be next week that we have a Part 2 or in a future episode Part 2. But yeah, know that I think what we've collected so far is not everything we want to talk about.
I read, I was telling Bryn in the car the other day, I read a story, a novel back in the day. And I think the premise of like the section of the novel is like there is a teacher teaching the students how to write. And at first they're supposed to do like this big topic. And the student came back and was like, I just don't even know where to start. I can't figure out how to write this novel, or I can't figure out how to write this paper. The teacher's like, all right, I think what you need to do is like, don't write about that topic. Just write about this one building. And then they came back after like a day or two and were like, I still got nothing. There's just too many things. I don't know where to start. Kind of analysis paralysis situation. And then the teacher on the last day is like, all right, I just want you to write a story about this one brick in this one building. And then the student came back and was like, had like this great, excellent paper. I read this novel like 10 years ago. So this is my vague recollection of like that chapter, but that's what happened. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on with Joy's Serenade, where it's like, there's so much text in the first 23 chapters. And it almost feels like you don't know really where to do like your deep dives. And it's just so much to go through. And then even though this Joy's Serenade's obviously like very poetic language, at the same time, it's like so condensed that you can do like a deep dive into every word. And it's just like, it's amazing. It's amazing how much more information I pulled out of so many fewer words with Joy's Serenade, just like almost by being forced to.
Right. Well, there's the quote, one of the quotes in the book from Mark Twain, right? That's like, I'll try to find the exact quote, but something about how long it takes to prepare for a 5-minute speech or whatever, right? It kind of feels like that situation for Joy's Serenade as well. It's like How did he JCB condense so much information in this? Because I feel like that's what the case is.
Yes, there was the question asked, how important is Joy's Serenade? I think his response was just, I think it's pretty important. Something along those lines.
The poem at the end of the book, you mean?
Yes, the poem at the end of the book. Sorry. I didn't think about that. I didn't do any thinking about why he answered that way.
Yeah, that still was weird because it's like, what else? Yeah.
But he was also not calling lion's share for a long time, and I feel like he is now, isn't he?
But lion's share is never called lion's share in the book. I mean, he refers to it as the lion's share of the treasure, but Joy's Serenade is literally titled Joy's Serenade.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, here's the Mark Twain quote. It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech. Don't wing it.
Don't wing it. On the note of it is called Joy's Serenade in the book, in the table of contents, it is called Final Poem.
That's right. Okay.
I forgot about that. Good
yeah,
nuggets.
I didn't think about that. We should have acknowledged. Part 2, let's acknowledge our thoughts on that.
Okay. How do we want to do this? Do we want to just go through the poem stanza by stanza?
Definitely stanza by stanza, yeah.
Okay. And do you want me to pull it up so we can look at it together? Is that helpful? Or
yeah, I think that'd be helpful. I'm definitely going to share a handful of different screenshots I've taken of things.
Okay.
Pass the screen back and forth.
Excellent. Let me share this real quick. All right, you guys can see that.
E-Take has started sharing his screen.
That's right. So yeah, I was thinking about this week, and I feel like we all should have memorized it and recited it from memory, but I didn't go around to that.
It'd be low on my priority list, to be honest.
All right, where to begin? Who wants to start? The molten tone of a tune rests inside all of us who want a song to follow. Treasure to hold. We may find music in a poem.
One more quick total tangent.
Yeah.
This reminds me of really early on when we started doing this and we addressed the Forest Fen poem. Mm-hmm. Not the Forest Fen poem, but the Forest Fen treasure box, JCB's Forest Fen treasure box poem.
Yes.
And we didn't know how we were supposed to handle like repeating things verbatim from the book. And it felt weird to just talk, like just to read the whole poem.
Right.
And so we did the whole episode kind of like summarizing each stanza, like talking around using the actual poem. Like use just one line at a time. So we weren't just sitting there reading it, but we've come a long way. Now it's just a screenshot of all of Joy's Serenade.
Fair use. All right, I'll start. You guys are being shy. A note, and this has been pointed out publicly a number of places, I would say. A note is right above tone, which is an anagram of note. And that point reminded me of something we had talked about probably over a year ago, which is on page 41. I had pointed out during the first read through of the book, and I don't think I pointed it out during the second read. I forgot about this, but right at the top of the page, I sourced boxes for weeks. I scoured every auction house as another anagram at the top of a page. And the interesting thing is that this is right at the top of page 41, which also has a picture of the lion's share box. So a note and tone, is it pointing out we should be doing anagramming of words? I feel like has to be an anagram somewhere, whether it's antler or something else. Anyway, this just got the gears turning that there's an anagram directly in the first 2 lines of Joy's Serenade. We have this, I would say, more interesting anagram on page 41, which has the lion's share box. So I thought that's a fun one.
Thumbs up.
All right.
Like it.
High value.
I value.
All right. Cody, what do
You
you
want to just do your notes on the whole first stanza, and then I'll do my notes on the whole first stanza.
I can if you dare. Okay.
If I dare, are you gonna steal all my goodies?
So let me play a sound clip first.
I'm worried he's gonna steal all my goodies.
I don't think so. All right. Name that tune.
Beethoven.
Mm.
Beethoven's something symphony.
Ode to Joy.
Ode to Joy.
Interesting.
Virginia,
right?
Kentucky. Ode to Joy.
Could one consider Joy's Serenade a synonym to Ode to Joy? And
yes.
Ode to Joy is like a very simple tune as demonstrated, right?
Yes.
Just has E, F, G, and then it goes back down to D, C, C. And there's one low G as well.
It's the one G from the word search, or from the.
It's the one G from the word search.
It's the if you don't go down to the one low G, you'll never know how high you want to be.
Anyway, it's like a very simple tune. I could imagine Joy Serenade being a synonym for Ode to Joy. But I don't really know what to do with that. So it's just a thought, just a tickler, let's say. But I think music obviously is going to be a theme we're going to be talking about today quite a bit, I'm assuming. Or not.
Not from me, no.
Really? Okay.
I'm in no music.
I have a lot of music. So just thinking aloud, I was like, well, let's think about the music theme, and let's think about the orientation of a music. Would you call this a staff, Cody?
Or a clef? A staff? Clef? Something like that.
I'm thinking more about
just the bars.
The 5 lines that make up a staff.
Yeah.
What if you were to make a staff out of the United States? It actually fits interestingly well that if you took every 5 degrees latitude, it would make a nice little map across the US, I'd argue. What do you think about that?
I like it. I like it a lot.
And if we had an Ode to Joy as our music theme, and we were to place those notes across it in basically the pattern of Ode to Joy, which is just a handful of notes, what would that do? And I haven't done it yet. Sorry.
Oh, no big reveal.
No, but like, would I use just the first 12 notes, 13 notes here? 15, 16 notes here. Or would I use the whole song? Or is this silly? Probably silly, but I don't know. I just couldn't get out of my head when I thought about Ode to Joy versus Joy's Serenade as like a very simple musical connection. I kind of liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
So a little bit about the difference between a serenade and an ode. I didn't find anything too interesting out of this. An ode, this is of course Google AI summary. An ode is a formal, elaborately structured poem or musical composition meant to praise or glorify a specific person, event, or object. In contrast, a serenade is a complimentary musical performance, often romantic, given outdoors at night, usually beneath someone's window. So anyway, I didn't really glean too much out of that comparison, but note that I'm like several degrees away from something that could be real here at this point.
Is serenade, like, is that a French word by chance?
I haven't looked that up. Great question. I will let you do that.
Right now.
I'm gonna, yeah.
It says, yes, serenade is used in French as serenade. It's obviously not how you pronounce it. Okay, so maybe not like French origins. Anyways, continue.
Okay. I'm going to do a few of these things where it's things we've talked about, but I just want to put them as a refresher in the Joyous Serenade discussion if people are just looking at this episode for Joyous Serenade talk. But we had talked, Cody, you had a nice discussion about the Pythagorean hammers idea that had come through the mailbag. Do you want to explain that if I put you on the spot or not?
Yeah, I can do a 36,000 foot.
Perfect.
It's maybe somebody might say a macroscopic view of it. So basically, it's playing on a note, a molten tone of a tune. So it's the story of Pythagoras, and he was walking by like a blacksmith shop and listened and heard like these different notes coming from the hammers striking the hammers striking the anvils or whatever they were striking.
Mm-hmm.
And he noticed they were like in perfect octaves or perfect intervals. So he went over and he basically figured out that, and I don't even think it's correct, but I think in the story, it was the idea that like the hammer's weights are proportional to the notes that they create when they strike the anvil.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically led to this mathematical connection between music and, I guess, be a connection between music and mathematics of like different ratios and different notes and how they are associated with one another. So it really connects really well to a note from Joyous Serenade, the molten tone of a tune, obviously because this whole story is about being in a blacksmith shop where everything's all molten and they're like hitting the molten metal to make the sound. So that was really interesting. And then so that was something that we found from a Discord detectives, and I wish I'd have to look up who we got that from. But then we took that further and figured out that it could also play into the part of Joyous Serenade where it says rests inside all of us, because the ear bones that you would use to hear the music and the notes are literally called a hammer, an anvil, and a stirrup, which is like perfectly connected with that story as well. So it really felt like it put a bow on this whole connection between note, molten tone of a tune, rest inside all of us, Pythagoras, hammer's story, connecting mathematics with music and
Pythagorean theorem
and experiencing
is about
music.
Triangles. We have the triangular numbers. Yeah. Full circle. Very nice.
Yeah. Kind of just all becomes self-referential, and it's very nice.
So you're saying actually the first three lines, a note, the molten tone of a tune rests inside all of us, could all relate back to that story. Actually,
I think that all goes together. I think the original Discord to text would have been just the two first lines connecting that to the Pythagoras hammer story, but then further connecting that to the ear bone stuff. I think there was a little bit more to it too, but listeners may have to go back and listen to the episode from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Perfect.
When it was more fresh on the mind and we had all our notes in front of us.
All right. Other musical terms that I want to talk about. So I think I have them listed here, in my opinion, the musical terms. So serenade, note, tone, tune, song, music, conductor, baton, coda, sing/harmonies, sing harmonies, dancers, rests, which is a musical term, hold, air, turning, turn, flutter, sustain. I think there's like a ton of musical terms in here, and seen that mapped out by others before as well. But just wanted to highlight them all in one place. So if we're thinking about ones that are in the first stanza, we have a note, tone, tune, rests. There are a variety of rests that I wanted to highlight here, in case those symbols are of interest to people to see, or the names, particularly of the the long rest, also called a longa.
The classic hemi-demi semi-quaver rest.
Yes. 64th rest. What else is in the first stanza? Hold. So you can hold a note. And that's basically indicated by the note design, right? If it's a whole note, if it's a half note, if it's an eighth note, that's how long you hold that note for. A song, music, song, music, tune. Okay, and then we'll wait for the second stanza before I come back to the music theme. That's all I have for the first stanza so far. Cody.
It makes me think with I didn't catch what the actual like term was for when it has the like the fractions with that. There's like a 1/4 and a 1/8, but like if potentially somehow 2/3 comes into play with music somehow, because we had the mention of 2/3 of the way through the basketball game, 2/3 of the way through part 1, and then in the Washington chapter also talks about like 2/3 of his troops not surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to consider where 2/3 comes in.
Yeah, 2/3 of the troops couldn't make it to the ambush in the George Washington chapter. Good question. I think that will come up here shortly that you won't be satisfied with.
I'm happy to have any commentary.
Cody.
All right, I'll start with a few of my little scribble in the margin comments.
Okay.
That I don't think are anything. The first two words, a note. If it is something musical and we're trying to like make a song or something, could literally be the note A.
Mm-hmm.
A note.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Sure. What else I got? I was also going to talk Pythagoras hammers and syllable ratios, ear bones, hammer, anvil, stirrup. We already covered all that. A song to follow is an interesting line because we had the Pied Piper reference directly in the book.
Nice.
Which is like the whole fairy tale is just about children being lured away by a song and some magical creature. Can't remember what kind of creature it was. That like literally has a magic song that makes people follow them. So that feels very on the nose. All right. Those are my in the margins ones. Now I've got my real one. America the Beautiful is the song that I've got similar to your Ode to Joy. So America the Beautiful was a 1983 poem by Catherine Lee Bates that later got turned into a song when it was paired with music from Samuel Augustus Ward. So it is, we may find music in a poem. I took that very literally as like something that was a poem and then became music and is obviously like a very ubiquitous song with like America and the geography of America, right? Which is kind of like the whole scope of this treasure hunt. So I like that a lot. Catherine Lee Bates wrote the poem when she was on Pikes Peak and originally titled the poem that became America the Beautiful, originally titled it Pikes Peak.
Really?
Which we've got both the Andvari Pike and also the Pike literally enjoys Serenade.
Right. So
that feels like, and the story is, and I've confirmed this, other than in just AI, that she went up to Pikes Peak and then went back down to her hotel and wrote America the Beautiful, which was originally titled Pikes Peak, in her hotel. And the name of that hotel was Antlers Hotel.
Interesting. That's the second time you've had an interesting Pikes Peak connection, right? You had
I think so, yeah.
Good content about Pike, and I think that Antler Hotel as well. That used to have like the paper mache statue that like melted or whatever.
I'd have to go back. I remember, I can't remember if it was the same Antler Hotel, but I remember there being another Antler Hotel that had come up like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it is the same one and how I got to that.
That's
So you
funny.
got the Whole America the Beautiful, Pikes Peak, Antlers Hotel. Now we've also got, so that is my, we may find music in a poem.
Mm-hmm.
That's my that. Now backing up, a treasure to hold. I found my favorite connection I found for that line was when I also took that literally as where in the book is someone holding treasure.
Oh,
And the only one that I found was on page 49 with Rob Levinsky,
interesting.
literally holding this piece of treasure as his treasure to hold. And what's interesting about that is this is actually something that was found back in 2025, is that the caption says here, Rob Levinsky holds a gold specimen called the Flame from the Red Ridge Mine. And that's not accurate. And it, to my knowledge, is not something that's ever been edited or changed, revised, fixed.
Right.
And it's actually called, it's from the Red Ledge Mine, not from the Red Ridge Mine. Which is interesting because I'll do my first screen share here.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing.
But there is.
And I kind of know, I was kind of following that controversy, and I think it was even like the Arkenstone or Rob Levinsky himself that kind of brought this to the community's attention, I believe, on Twitter, that was wrong.
That sounds familiar.
So it's extra interesting because it's this is the only thing on Google Maps that's like real close to Pikes Peak is the Ridge. So if Ridge is the word that's in question with the treasure to hold, and then obviously Pikes Peak, other connections we just made, feels like there's a lot going on right there. So that is my a treasure to hold. We may find music in a poem.
Very nice.
It's my Rob Levinsky connection, Pikes Peak connection, and then also kind of who want a song to follow. You'll see I kind of go in further stanzas. I kind of stick with a lot of this, and so the song to follow also like ends up being kind of like my starting point is like Pikes Peak with this song. But I think that's what I got for stanza 1.
What if a song to follow is an encore?
So I think though, I guess how I'm looking at it right now is we have a song to follow, and then below our conductor as with the trace of a baton. So it kind of feels like we're like the idea of following the conductor is what we're following versus like afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that idea.
No, I
and it's at the end. The final poem.
I think what would be weird about a song to follow being an encore is to have it so close to the coda is incomplete, because it's basically like the end of the song's not complete, but then we're talking about an encore.
Yeah,
they're almost like counter whatever.
Yeah, and I think reading it in different ways was kind of what I was attempting, so I like that thinking, Bryn, of trying to connect the stanzas together. But even like a note, let's skip the comma part, right? A note rests inside all of us who want a song to follow. Thinking about these like asides almost separated by the commas, you might get different interpretations out of that.
Nice. That is an excellent tip.
All right. Anything else for the first stanza that you want to go over, Bryn or Cody?
I'm ready for stanza 2.
All right.
I just have to do my call out of hand team for holding.
Okay. Our conductor, as with a trace of a baton through the air, gives direction. While the coda is incomplete, there's a flutter of excitement around. So coda, I think, is like a key something here, and we've talked about this before, the coda symbol. In music, a coda, Italian for tail, is a concluding section of a composition or song used to bring the piece to a satisfying close. It typically reworks previous heard themes, resolves musical tension, or serves as a final dramatic outro. It's an AI summary from Google. So my thoughts are, what does an incomplete coda look like? And I had Claude just make a nice little figure for us. If you couldn't use your imagination. But I was just thinking, like, so we have a complete coda here. What would be versions of an incomplete coda, just as like a little brainstorm? Is it just the circle? Is it an X leads the way? Or is it some combination of other things just to like jog your memory to see if anything is interesting here? And I don't think there is. That came to mind immediately. So just throwing that out there as a little tickler. The more interesting thing I thought was the trace of a baton through the air. So did you guys do any research on how a conductor actually uses a baton in music composition?
No. I'm excited to hear about it, though.
Okay.
I had asked my friend who is a music director. This was like about the in the Pokemon box chapter. I had texted her at one point. I'm like, is this Froakie doing anything hand symbol wise as a conductor?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't dove into it this way at Joyce Serenade.
So there seems to be, and according to my research, internet research, some typical baton movement depending on the time signature of the music. So we can think about either 2/4 time, 3/4 time, or 4/4 time. And I actually had the same exact thought that you did, Bryn. Is there like a 2/3 time? And I could not find a 2/3 time as being anything close to common. So I couldn't find a result for that, unfortunately. So if people know more about music and connecting this to 2/3, I'd be super interested. But these are the patterns of the baton movement based on the time signature of the piece that's being done. So I wanted to show those shapes. What this actually looks like. We have some nice videos from Conduct It. And this is what a 2/4 time looks like. So it's just like back and forth, back and forth. It kind of shows like this J shape that I showed you here. You can kind of see that. That's if it's legato, which I think is like regular speed. And if it's a staccato note, it would look a little bit different, a little more herky-jerky, because a staccato is like right?
Yeah, legato means like smooth and fluid, and then staccato is like very punctuated.
Okay.
Hey, some music knowledge I knew.
So interesting. Here's what a 3/4 time scale looks like. This one is interesting because it's more triangular.
I love how uninterested this guy looks.
That was my main comment. It's like all I can look at is this guy just like shifting his eyes off to the side. Like, are we done here?
I don't want to do this.
So he smiles in the last one. You'll like this one.
Maybe it's his favorite time signature.
This is the 4/4 time. So anyway, that's what a trace of a baton looks like through the air. We have a shape associated with it. We don't necessarily know which time signature JCB would be referencing, if this is even on the right track at all. But I thought this was an interesting bit of research. What do you guys think?
I'm just mesmerized by watching this guy.
I think I'm really happy you looked into that, because I think I get so caught up with the air aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can this relate to all of this like air travel, flying, bird's eye view? So I like that this gives us like a physical pattern and shape to work with.
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't know what to make with it, but I think it's a good step back for me to kind of ground myself and thinking more about what could that conductor line specifically mean, or like with the trace of a baton.
Yeah. Could you overlay, if you were to be able to pick out 2 places in the book that are key, 3 places in the book that are key, or 4 places in the book that are key, to kind of make these patterns and then draw the conductor's trace over it? Would it point you to treasure location?
I would say unlikely,
Unlikely.
but I think it's very clever.
Thank you.
When you did your research, was there any indication as to if this is like a very standardized thing or if this is just like one way to do it?
It seemed very standard. It was actually harder to find information on this than I thought, but the information I found seemed consistent. Because when I think about going to the symphony, like I usually do, it's a joke. I feel like conductors are like way more dramatic, and are they really just doing this pattern? I don't know. I feel like not, but I don't know. I've never knew this information before, so it'd be worth doing a little bit more research. But maybe there's other baton movements. I was hoping to find like a Wikipedia page on like all the different baton movements that are done, and I couldn't find one that was easily accessible. So I think there's still more research to be done if people are interested in this topic, but it was more standard seemingly than I thought, Cody. All right. Now we'll get into, well, I have more, and then we'll get into woo-woo territory.
Oh, boy.
So the other part of this that always bothers me is the flutter, right? If we look at this, there's a flutter of excitement around. And I still don't know what to do with this, but I did want to do some brainstorming on what flutter could be referencing. So winged creatures, because we always have butterfly at the top of mind because of our unbreakable thread and the title page we think is a butterfly in our opinion. Winged creatures, so moths, birds, hummingbirds, bats, dragonflies, and by extension, anything in flight for a moment. So this is obviously some AI help here in coming up with this list. But we do have like the chicken reference in our other treasures. And you think about like a chicken can't really fly very well, but it can kind of flap for a little bit. So I thought that was interesting. Thinking about birds.
Does a bee flutter?
Maybe.
I guess I wouldn't describe it that way.
Yeah.
Fluttering bee.
I mean, I just feel like because butterflies in your stomach is like a flutter. That's what I always think of. So I found this list to be helpful because it makes me think about different things. So flags and banners, pennants, streamers, prayer flags, windsocks. That's something I hadn't really thought about before. Fluttering is a flag in the wind, right? I thought that was a cool idea. But what would be
I really like I really like the wind sock because that's like wind direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have all the winds, invisible force connection. Like wind direction could be something very prominent.
So why would there be a flutter of excitement all around? It still doesn't quite make sense to me, but we're just doing a brainstorm right now. Paper and fabric, so pages of a book fluttering, ribbons, laundry on a line, sails, tents in the wind, ticker tape, and falling leaves. So I kind of like falling leaves as it being a flutter of excitement all around. The heart, that one is quite interesting because you could have a flutter in your heart. And we have the hearts, I would argue the hearts on the unbreakable thread butterfly. That's something I hadn't considered before. Then we have eyelids, eyelashes, a flutter of lashes, batting your eyes. This is something that I should have brought up before, but iris, when we were talking about eyes and photography, the iris vase brim.
Oh my gosh.
Iris is part of the eye.
Unbelievable.
So something
That's
there
crazy.
maybe to think about a bit more.
I like that.
In terms of a musical connection, a flutter tonguing on a flute. We have those flute references in the book a couple of places. And we also have the flute ceremony in the Hopi calendar as well. So if this is musical themed, is the flutter a reference to a musical flutter? Wagering, which is British slang. I don't really have any connections for that, but I put it in here for completeness. And then this one's also interesting. Aviation engineering. There's an aeroelastic flutter, which is the dangerous oscillation of wings. So like resonance, right? And so we had talked about Galloping Gertie before, the Tacoma's Narrow Bridge, which had a resonance that caused the bridge to collapse with a certain wind that day. So that's called an aeroelastic flutter. I thought this was fun just to kind of get some different ideas about what flutter could mean, because it's a very frustrating word. Enjoy Serenade to me. Thoughts, comments?
I mean, I still think the strongest connection would be to a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad you did this because, yeah, it's hard sometimes when we like really associate one thing with one other thing to break away from that. So you're kind of forcing us to consider some other things here.
Yeah, agreed. So more to dwell on. As we've all said, we haven't had enough time to kind of put this all to use yet, but just throwing ideas out there for the audience. All right, woo-woo time. What else could we think about as a baton? And it made me think of like a relay baton. And interestingly, of course, we have Wilma Rudolph with a couple references to the relay race relay teams that she was a part of. In Seattle, Wilma Rudolph qualified for the 56 Melbourne Olympics in the 200-meter dash and the 400-meter relay. And then again, a reference to the 400-meter relay where you're passing a baton between your teammates. Now, the interesting thing is that there's the use of composed right in that section.
That's really cool.
I love this.
So as said, it's a little woo-woo, but it's also a big coincidence of the day if it's a coincidence, because composed is also a musical term. It's not conductor, but it is a musical reference, certainly. Now, the other more woo-woo is like, if we think about a conductor as like an operator of a train instead of an orchestra person, training, I mean, there's so many uses of the word train in this chapter, the Wilma Rudolph, because she's training. Would a conductor be like the coach of somebody doing training? Anyway, that's just a random thought, but I wanted to throw it in here for fun. When we go look for conductors, there's a couple other references within the book. I stumbled across their talents while conducting research. So this is talking about Angie Murray and the other gal that they both designed jewelry for the treasure. I stumbled across their talents while conducting research on Art Smith. Didn't really find any pointers associated with that. And then there's a couple mentions of semiconductors in the Apple chapter as well. So not very satisfying in terms of direct word association with conductor. Enjoys Serenade, I would argue. But I really did like the
Apple one was on my list.
Okay.
And I feel like you breezed over it. It was under my woo-woo category section, my woo-woo section, but I do feel like you breezed over a little bit too much.
Sure.
Because if you think of like a conductor as like a manager, like you're conducting the business, then the quote, Mike Scott oversaw a large team at a company named National Semiconductor.
Interesting.
Would make Mike Scott a conductor at a conductor plant. Double
conductor. Let me get my highlighter out. Saw a large team. It's cool.
So
I like that.
He
Cody.
conducted the conductor people.
He managed hundreds of people. He understood complex systems. He understood the chip manufacturing process. Yeah, it's an interesting connection, Cody. I like that.
Can you tell me what a semiconductor does, like in 5?
It
No.
conducts things, but like semi. Like only half as good.
Carry on.
It's an electrical component.
Okay.
All right. That's all.
Oh,
yeah.
The other thing was, okay, so Mike Scott was the conductor of the conductors. And he also is the one that then there's the weird connection to the Scotty picture, the Star Trek Scotty picture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our conductor, as with the trace of a baton through the air, gives direction. I looked a little bit more at that Scotty picture because he's holding like 2 measurement instruments in his hands, right?
Okay.
In that photo. So then it was kind of like, I don't know. I looked at that one for a minute when I was going through my woo-woo going crazy phase of conductor, picture of Scotty. Then there was also the idea of, was the image flip-flopped or not? So then it was like, is the direction like west or east that he's giving because JCB intentionally like mirrored that photo from what was from the original? Anyway, I think it's all woo-woo stuff, but there were some connections there that I had to dive deeper.
Very nice. Okay. I like your woo-ness. Any other?
We both woo-wooed the same woo-woo.
Any other notes for this stanza 2?
Oh yeah, I haven't. If you're done, I'll do mine.
Yep, I'm done.
All right.
Sorry, I want to go back to the electric, like, conductor. Would that have anything to do with like the shivers down my spine or like the nervous system operations?
A brain.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
I think it would, because it'd be.
of.
I mean, they're electrical impulses, right? All the little, those kind of things. Neuron firing is like
Yeah.
electrical impulse.
Like I'm picturing like a clip art image, and it feels very like, yeah, like what you just said, Cody. Anyways,
Right.
I'm just contributing stupid things.
I have air. I had air in my musical term list, Cody. Sorry to interrupt one more time. I forgot to put this in. But air is a certain type of melody or song, and I have an example that you might recognize, and it's called "Air on the G String." And I thought G string is funny. Ha 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 ha. All right, you probably will recognize this though. I felt like that was kind of like a leitmotif. And that's why air is in the music section. Horrible connection, I know.
Original.
Yeah, this isn't really a good description of air. There's better descriptions, but I had recognized that song, so I thought people would enjoy that.
Go back to I'll do a little coincidence of the day. Go back to that. Yeah. So it says the arrangement differs from the original in that it's transposed down to C major. So the part of the first violins can be played entirely on the violin's lowest string, the G string. Low G. Low G was the one low G in Ode to Joy.
Oh. Solved.
Solved. We got it.
That's right. That's right.
It's all about these low G's. Then the low G in the word search, the lone G and the low G.
That's crazy. Huh. All coming together.
We're hot on the set now.
And everyone just stopped listening.
Okay. Cody, you're free to present.
All right, these are in no particular order. I will say I am really leaning into the idea of the our conductor, as with the trace of a baton through the air gives direction, is referencing some sort of compass.
Okay.
I think that the baton is like the compass needle and how it's going to like flutter around like a conductor would flutter a baton around.
Okay.
The conductor would be the earth in this case. The earth is what's like conducting this magnetic field. We have the like 5 or 10 different quotes about like the invisible hand pushes you, all the things we kind of thought were windish, but maybe not wind.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of leaning towards some sort of magnetic field component. I think all that could really, I'll say it again, I'll use this term before, but put like a bow on that, those like 4 lines. Our conductor, as with the trace of a baton through the air, gives direction. It's just like a compass giving direction, which the most like Occam's razory way of approaching that would be like go north. Like if we can figure out a location such as Pikes Peak from the first stanza, I think that part of the second stanza could be really poetic way of just saying go north. Like the compass points you north, and then the next stanza down, the third stanza starts with see how far to go. So you'd have like a location, a direction, and then the third stanza would tell you how far away from that initial location you're looking.
Okay.
I think that kind of, again, is very like Occam's razory, crisp, clear. You would have to assume that JCB is assigning a lot of extra frilly language, but I mean, if you're trying to hide something like go north from here,
Mm-hmm.
our conductors with the trace of baton through the air gives direction, I feel like isn't a way you'd do that, where it's just metaphorical enough. So I liked that a lot. All right, talked about that. So I was looking at the one thing I didn't love so much about that is I kind of expected there to be a conductor component of a compass, but there really isn't. Earth would be the conductor,
Mm-hmm.
and then the compass wouldn't really contain a conductor unless you were using an Earth inductor compass, which does contain a conductor, which is the kind of compass they had on like the Hindenburg. And I was hoping that it was an Amelia Earhart compass, but it was not. It was pre-Amelia Earhart.
Interesting.
But basically, it's similar to a normal compass, except it's like energized in some way, has like an electromagnet or something, and like contains a conductor. I still think the simpler solution would be that our conductors, the Earth, and then the trace of the baton is the compass following the magnetic field. I will share one image of an Earth inductor compass, and I'm not sure if they all look like this. I couldn't find a lot of examples because they're like in museums now.
Okay.
But tell me if you find, so an Earth inductor compass, instead of saying like you're going north, it's something where, and I'm not an expert, I did a lot of research on a lot of things, but essentially you're able to set your destination, and then the compass just points towards that destination and will tell you if you're veering one way, it'll start pointing that way. And if you're veering the other way, it'll start pointing that way. You want to just like keep going the right direction.
That's cool.
So this one that I found, tell me if you think that this is an interesting layout on this dial.
Oh,
For heading.
Interesting. The left and right that we see in
just
the
like
apple.
the apple,
the cherry.
Oh,
Huh.
when we thought the cherries, especially if the cherry is supposed to be like this middle axis, or not the cherry, but like if we're thinking of like if we're making connections with like the Mississippi River, and this being like the cherry tree being like the center of the United States, left hand, right side, and then that cherry being left, right. This compass would be left, right. Just more left, rights.
That's cool.
Let's see.
That is really cool.
I was trying to get this stanza and the idea of starting point, maybe Pikes Peak, direction, and then distance in the third stanza. I really wanted my direction to be east to make the other things that I liked fit. even though like my initial interpretation was it's just telling you to go north. So one interesting thing I found is that when you have a normal compass, it rarely points true north. I think if you're in Illinois, I want to say it'll point like truly north. And then if you're to one side, it'll point more and more kind of shifted east and more shifted west. So if you're at Pikes Peak, and you had your compass out, what's north would actually be 8.5 degrees east of true north.
Okay.
So
Like
that's
magnetic north is different than true north.
That was my make it make sense of the baton of the compass actually is indicating to go a little east.
Interesting.
Which
I like
is
how
very
you're analyzing
woo-woo-y.
this. But
It's
I like
very
how,
woo-woo-y.
I like how you assigned conductor as being something like the earth, you said. And I want to do that exercise a little bit more. So that's helpful, Cody.
I
Thank
keep
you.
wondering, I wish I had like the Mother Nature quotes, because in the introduction, it's like Mother Nature beckons you, right? Like, it
Mhm.
almost feels like is our conductor, like essentially what you're saying, Cody, but like is in the story, is it supposed to be Mother Nature or yeah, like almost a character in that way?
Yeah. My interpretation of the coda is incomplete. Again, this is another Occam's razor. Type 1 would be he's acknowledging that he's not giving you a destination yet, and that again, it's 3 stanzas for start. Here is a direction you're going to go, but it's incomplete, and then you read on and get how far that direction to go in the next stanza. I think that's another way of interpreting that. It's not a super fun way of interpreting it, but that's kind of the best I could come up with for that one. I copy and pasted a bunch of butterfly information. I'm not sure if I want to read it all out. I think it's stuff we've said before about, because I was so big into magnetism and the compass, the idea of, we had talked about how the butterflies use
An internal magnet.
Yeah. Internal
Internal
magnetic
navigation.
compass as a backup system. Yes, exactly. And then they also had the blue light and UV receptor, which is interesting because of the UV stuff that we talked about. Yeah. All right. Enough butterfly stuff. But then I obviously had made connections because then there's the flutter all around. Let's see here. Sorry, like I said, my notes are kind of all over the place. Anyway, just to the east of Pikes Peak, there's a town that I'm really into. And literally right next to the city hall of that town is a butterfly garden. So there's possibly the flutter of excitement all around when you go that direction. You catch that. It's also interesting. There's like an amusement park type thing, or like it seems like it's also like a tourist attraction in this city, this is in Colorado. That's the North Pole.
Oh, nice.
So I thought that could be interesting because if I'm big into like this compass thing and they have like a fake North Pole over here, maybe there's something poetic or metaphorical about that in some way.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say is while you were talking about flutter and making me expand my horizons and think beyond just butterflies as flutter, I actually got hooked on the idea of excitement.
Okay.
Because he says, you just clicked off of it. Sorry, I was reading.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I think you can
There's a flutter of excitement around.
Yeah.
And because I've been dealing with like magnets and electromagnets and doing a lot of research on that, the idea of excitement actually felt more like it could potentially be like electrical excitement. And so I just found that flutter in electronics and communication is a technical term. So flutter would be rapid variations in received signal levels, such as variations that could be caused by atmospheric disturbances, antenna movements in a high wind, or interaction with other signals. That's interesting because one thing I found is there's a myth about that Pikes Peak that you can't use the compass, or compass will give you inaccurate readings, and it'll like the needle will flutter around, which ended up being a myth. And I didn't think it was interesting for some reason when I was reading that earlier. I think because it is a myth and it was debunked, and I was really excited thinking that it might be true. But in doing that research, I found that you will get like weird false readings and flutters and stuff if you're like in areas with super high, I want to say iron content or something like that. There's like mountains with different metal content that will make your compass whiz out. So that almost feels like, if you're using flutter as like the electronics term, a potential like flutter of excitement. So that's something I'm coming up with in real time. And now I got to think more about if that makes sense or not. That's all I got for stanza 2.
Great.
What do we think about excitement as being like literally excite?
Excite. Where the X is, it's a site, it's a location. There's a flutter of excitement
like it's
around.
Too early to be like, I mean, if we're reading the poem in a linear way, but it just seems kind of interesting that excitement is an interesting word, like you said, Cody, and for it to actually like be an excite. I don't know. I just think it's worth keeping in the back of our minds.
Nice. All right. Stanza 3.
I actually like that, Brent. I like that a lot. If you're saying like, while the coda is incomplete, there's a flutter of excitement around. So the coda is incomplete, meaning basically you're not to the end yet, but you're like starting to get like, I don't know, say it's like a national park or something, and it like has little offshoots and stuff. Like you're starting to get in the area. There's a flutter of the X site.
Right. And the coda makes an X too, right?
There's little bits. You're starting to get into little bits of this site where the treasure is found. That's kind of an interesting take on it. I like that.
The coda makes an X and a circle all around. Yeah, I honestly don't know if X site meant as an original thought or not, or if I saw that somewhere else, but it jumps out to me.
I think stanza 3 is the one I'm probably most excited to hear from Blake on.
Interesting. Ooh. Okay.
Take it away.
Just a couple things on this. So see how far to go. I like your connection to that. It's like, take the instructions in the previous stanza, and then now you have to figure out a distance. I like your interpretation of that. Use Will's straight edge as the turning square or any arc may align at a proper point. And then the part that bugs me the most in this stanza is the never despair, never doubt. This is no imaginary wonderland. Now look. So we'll start with the never despair, never doubt. So I just looked up antonyms for despair and doubt to see if it would like make a phrase that would be interesting, right? And so despair is like, the opposite of despair is hope, faith, optimism, joy, happiness, elation, bliss, confidence, cheerfulness, encouragement. So using that as like the first word in this phrase. And then the opposite of doubt is certainty, trust, or confidence. But I can't make anything out of that supposed phrase that I'm trying to come up with that makes any sense to me. But that was my approach of trying to figure out never despair, never doubt. The only other thing I could think of is like, why is there 2 NDs here? Never despair, never doubt. It's like North Dakota. But I just don't know how to decipher the never despair, never doubt. It just seems out of place to me. Have thoughts on that?
It seems out of place to me as well. It's one that I didn't really have a good solution for, and I'm kind of trying to hand wave away a little bit.
I think for me, it kind of, it always in the back of my mind kind of ties in with the dust jacket poem with the sparkle even as you pine. Just because it's like kind of the negative emotions, I guess. Doubt and pining, despair.
So,
obviously I don't know how to connect it, but I just kind of by association, I guess.
anyway,
I also think it could tie in with the "This is no imaginary wonderland." So basically, if you take the both of those lines together, it's never despair, never doubt. This is no imaginary wonderland. So he'd be like speaking to. You'd have a reason to believe not to go somewhere, maybe, or a reason to believe it's like fake or imaginary or too good to be true, and he's telling you it is true.
Okay. Yeah. Not. It's out of my wheelhouse right now. That particular phrase. I like this idea as the turning square, and I know we talked about a Rubik's Cube the other day. I'm not bought into that yet. I don't have a good answer for a Rubik's Cube type, but what I do like is I like the idea of a compass as being considered a turning square. Even though it's more of a triangle, you can imagine making the compass at 90 degrees, and then you're using that to make an arc, literally drawing it on a map or something. So use a compass, use Will's straight edge as the turning square, or any arc may align at a proper point. I've kind of always liked the idea of using kind of the Matthew Hobbies theorem, that you choose like Athens, Georgia, or you choose Atlanta, Georgia, because of if you begin to question whether you can find the treasure I've hidden, I invite you to return to this chapter, the Nigerian soccer team. It is here to help you. Maybe it can provide you just the direction you need. And then we had talked about the, I think, 1,000 miles, and I apologize, I don't have that quote in here. I missed that one. Oh, no, I didn't. This also part of the Nigerian soccer team chapter. They spent the next 2 hours calling every hotel and motel within a 100-mile radius of Atlanta. They finally located a rundown motel over 75 miles away with enough space for the entire team. It could have been more than 1,000 miles away, as isolated as it seemed. That also has the weird negative bearing reference as a potential directionality pointer, let's say. And then in addition to, it's fine to have doubts or even modest expectations sometimes. Although I do think it's awesome to have grand ones. So I like grand because of 1,000. So in that chapter, I would argue 2 references to 1,000. So that goes back to the Matthew Hobbies idea of making an arc 1,000 miles away from Atlanta or Athens, Georgia, and seeing where you land. I'll take it a bit further and say, why did JCB put the bottom of the medal on here as a picture in the book that says men's football? And then let's take both pictures of the medal in that chapter. And if we were to look at the bottom of the medal, put it on a map and point it straight through Wisconsin. Solved.
Can you go back to the picture of the bottom?
Yep.
So how are you creating that? What's that word? Not I want to say vector. How are you creating that trajectory?
By taking then the other 2 pictures of the medal. So I have it here, Bryn. And if you were to look in the direction that the medal is pointing in the photograph, map it onto your center point, your starting point in Georgia, and point it straight up, that would be the direction. And if you do the same thing with the other medal picture, because there's 2 pictures in the metal, you would get a little bit more east, but it would go through Wisconsin again. But this is just confirmation by a city. But trying to answer why JCB would necessarily put the bottom of the metal as a picture in the book has always been a little interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the chapter that's supposed to provide us the direction that we need. So this is just one idea. A little bit confirmation biasy for sure. I have other coincidences. So the turning square we talked about being potentially a Rubik's cube. Chapter 7, that's a quote. Chapter 8 is Beauty's Bespoken Treasures. Our thoughts and imagination, so keyword imaginary, enjoy Serenade in this stanza. That's in chapter 8. And then in chapter 9, we have the William of Ockham. So we kind of have a 1, 2, 3 in a row. Imaginary, Will's straight edge, and a turning square as like 1, 2, 3 quotes in a row in the book that all kind of line up with the 3rd stanza, which I thought was interesting. I don't know what to do with it, but it's a weird coincidence, I would argue. So I think that's all I have on stanza 3. Unsatisfying, I know, but interesting nonetheless. Cody.
All right, stanza 3. I'll start off with something that was just very on my mind during stanza 3, and I found quite frustrating actually, and that's Will's straight edge. You already kind of touched on it. I think the leading theory is that's Occam's razor. William of Ockham, straight edge, razor, use Occam's razor, use Will's straight edge. And ultimately, that's my leading theory still too, but I just have like this huge giant red flag attached to it. And that huge giant red flag is that Will's is not capitalized. And it's the kind of thing where like capitalization of one word, normally I'd chalk that up to like, could very easily be just like a JCB editing issue. But why it particularly stands out to me as like intentional and not just an editing issue and important is because we know that JCB spent so much time poring over the Forest Fen poem and the House of Brown or Home of Brown, whichever one it is in that one. And the Brown being capitalized was like such a big part of that poem.
Right.
So I don't think he's then going to kind of make that same kind of like coy metaphor about a name in his own poem and not be thinking about capitalizing that, which makes it really tough because then, and again, ultimately, I'm still going with Occam's razor at this point. But if it's not Occam's razor, then what the heck is it?
Right.
Like what would lowercase WILL apostrophe S? Like what is even a possible interpretation of what that means? It has to be like, my only thought was, and this is about to get very woo-woo. I think the thought is valid and the execution is woo-woo here, but it would have to be like will in like where there's a will, there's a way. Use Will's straight edge. That's like the only way I can think of that would like this formatting would make sense. So with that in mind, and because I had, as I went through this poem, seemed to make a lot of connections between like chapters and stories from part 1 of the book that like seemed to connect well, kind of like the Rob Levinsky thing from stanza 1 with the A Treasure to Hold. I should really have written down what chapter it was. The one where they go find I think it's the emerald, right?
Yeah.
It's the Restrepo. The Restrepo paragraph.
Okay.
Because the whole idea is not giving up and like having this incredible iron will.
Okay.
And they're searching for that they're searching for that. What was it?
An overlook, a vista. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
they're
well,
looking for
ultimately that's
the emerald mine.
yeah, they're looking for the emerald one, and they had one single clue, right? So
Yep.
they're like bushwalking, and the whole narrative is about how like the crew is just like so run down, it's so difficult, and they're going off this one Hail Mary clue that is like once you find this opening and you could see the area below, that's where the mine is.
Mm-hmm.
So the obvious connection there is like this whole iron will and like never giving up. But the other connection from that paragraph is JCB also uses the word will in like two very interesting ways in that paragraph,
Okay.
like kind of in JCB-isms. So the two quotes are, and I only wrote down the second part of the quote, but the quote was like, my brain kept telling me it's not going to happen, but my heart said, this time it will. Let me find the exact quote.
That's interesting. I like where you're going with this as an
Well, this is-
alternative. Yeah.
And it's very woo-woo, but I'm acknowledging that. There will be no...
I don't think it's that woo.
This is why I also liked it, because again, it went back to the kind of reference to the dust cover haiku that we think is connected to the Joyous Serenade as well. So the quote was, there will be no shine or shimmer or sparkle. My heart yelled back, this time it will. So there's one will. Second will was also kind of a JCB-ism. His big, bushy eyebrows and thick white hair gave the air of a gentle butler, a Midwestern Alfred Pennyworth, if you will. So that felt like another kind of just, if you will popped in there. So
okay,
I don't love it. I'm trying to think of a way of if the capitalization or the non-capitalization is intentional, find anything that would like actually connect lowercase WILL apostrophe S.
Nice.
Ultimately, I'm still leaning towards Occam Razor.
I'm very much a fan of an alternative meaning than that. And I think it's also interesting that we have all the instances of Wilma in the Wilma Rudolph show. Like it was a crazy amount using Stacey Toon's data that he provided. So I guess I just don't think it's coincidental.
Turning square. I found another definition of turning square. I don't know if I actually confirmed this one outside of AI, so I'm hoping it's true. I got turning square. In American legal history, to turn square corners is a famous metaphor for absolute honesty, strict adherence to the rules, and refusing to take ethical shortcuts.
Oh.
So I liked that, specifically the strict adherence to the rules. So it's like if JCB is laying out rules here, then it would be as the turning square or any arc may align at the proper point. Maybe the turning square part is like adhering to what JCB is saying. I don't know. Always open to more interpretations of turning square, though. All right. Probably my favorite thing I found in this stanza was node arc area topology, which is like, let me just read this whole thing first. So node arc area topology is a foundational mathematical and data structure used in geographic information systems, GIS, and digital cartography, developed in the 1960s and 1970s, most famously popularized by Percy's legacy ArcInfo coverage format. It is the framework that allows computers to understand spatial relationships, not just where things are, but how they connect and relate to each other. Without topology, a digital map is just a collaboration of dumb, isolated lines and shapes drawn on a screen, like a JPEG or an Adobe Illustrator file. With node arc area topology, the map understands geography. So very like, we know that JCB did a lot of like Google Mapsing type stuff when he was doing his treasure hunt. So any of these like GIS, global information systems maps feel like something I would expect JCB to gravitate towards when creating a puzzle, a treasure hunt. So there's three things that make up this node arc area topology, which is node arc and area. The nodes are points, the arcs are lines, and then the area is the polygon that's made up with the lines. So I really like that as a potential definition for arc when he says any arc. So any arc would basically be any line between two features on a map or points on a map.
Okay.
On these maps. The other thing that's very interesting is that every line in node arc area topology has a direction. So there's always a to node and a from node, and the direction of that, the arc would have a direction. In the specific data model, an arc represents things like roads, streams, or trail paths. Every arc must begin at a from node and terminate at a to node. This gives the arc an inherent directional flow, which is how GPS maps know which one-way street goes, which way a one-way street goes, or which way a river flows. So I like that for arc, but I also like it for turning square, because I'll read another excerpt. In node arc area topology, a square is never required to be a true geometric square. In fact, a computer calculating topological data, geometry, lengths, angles, and perfect shapes doesn't really matter at all. Only connectivity matters to the database. Any area defined by 4 nodes and 4 arcs is topologically identical, whether it looks like a perfect square, a warped rectangle, a diamond, or even a chaotic, squiggly, four-sided puzzle. So I like the idea of, like, in a GIS map, he's referencing arcs. He could also be referencing square, but also it would be could be a turning square because each of those arcs has a direction. So it has like a directional element to like this square area on a map. I'm trying to make that connection somewhere here, because I feel like just the more I read about this node arc area topology, the more it feels like there's a lot of either synonymous terms or like exact copy and paste terms with what he's saying here. So I feel like that could be on the right track there, maybe. Specific to my starting at Pikes Peak solve, the area that I'm interested in that had the butterfly garden next to Town Hall, it's just to the east of Pikes Peak, has some Alice in Wonderland, famous Alice in Wonderland bar thing that I'm not that interested in, but also the historic district linking Garden of the Gods to downtown in Colorado City frequently hosts a massive annual Mad Hatter / Spring Wonderland festival that transforms the historic streets into an Alice-themed dreamscape, centering heavily around the clock tower on West Colorado Avenue.
Interesting.
Also, the Garden of the Gods area that I'm interested in, their whole like website keeps calling it a Wonderland, and then JCB's poem says this is no imaginary Wonderland. And then there's now look at the end of the stanza, which I kind of think, especially for the direction, like when you're standing at Pikes Peak, it would be now look, and you've got one of these telescope viewers that we had talked about previously. Okay. So if I'm saying stanza 1 is Pikes Peak, stanza 2 provides direction, which could be north or east. I like east. It doesn't make as much sense. I'm trying to find a way to make it make sense, if you will. But stanza 2 provides direction. And then stanza 3 says, for how far to go, use Occam's razor, and now look. So in my mind, it would be like, where's an obvious place that's that direction that you can see through this viewer from the top Pikes Peak, which in this case would be, you could see potentially, actually I haven't confirmed it, but it seems like you'd be able to see like Garden of the Gods State Park, I believe, which is what I'm now interested in. So it's in my mind that kind of potentially lines up. I think there's more research to do there. Oh, I wanted to share one other thing. There's more research to do there, but some of this stuff is starting to feel like maybe could have some merit.
Yeah.
All right, ready for my most woo-woo one yet?
Yes.
For turning square?
Yes.
So on Google Maps, and this must be a feature on other maps, or on Google Maps in other places, but I feel like this is the only place I've seen it. there's like this weird around Pikes Peak. I think it's because of like the timing of the weaving together of the satellite pictures that there's like these square, especially this one at the top center of the picture, these like weird perfect square shadows. There's like little steps in Google Maps and like these perfect squares. And I don't see them other places.
Okay.
I don't think this has anything to do with anything, but we know that JCB is a big Google Maps guy, and there's these weird, like perfectly square artifacts going north from Pikes Peak that I haven't seen elsewhere on Google Maps. So
Cool.
very woo-woo, but possibly some sort of special square.
All right, Bryn, any additional thoughts on stanza 3?
I'm happy to continue.
Okay, I think we'll plan to do one more stanza, and then we're already well over 2 hours, so we should probably stop and come back to this. Is that okay with everybody?
I'm very tired.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
All right, so we'll just quickly do stanza 4, or we don't have to do it quickly, Cody. There's no rush, but...
Am I boring you guys? You all ready for bed now?
No, this is very thought-provoking. I like how we have very different approaches here, but I like throwing a lot of ideas out, even if you don't necessarily find too much merit. So you could take your own path, and X leads the way, or simply follow shimmering circles of gold. There may be magic in the water, but the pike are rather all around. So pike is the first discussion point here, and maybe the only discussion point for me. I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, Cody. One idea for pike is like a turnpike, which is a toll road. So I don't know where pikes necessarily are in the United States. I have research to do, but that's one idea about pike. The one I like more is the pike that had to do with the 1904 World's Fair, which is mentioned in the book. That there was a region, a section of the World's Fair grounds called the Pike. So if that's like a historical reference, and I don't know if there's references in St. Louis at this point to this area of town, if it's still called the Pike or has markings associated with that, but it was a mile-long attraction that's now Lindell Boulevard and Skinker Avenue. Anyway, I like that connection because I like St. Louis, the World's Fair connection throughout the book. And then where you can actually find pike in the United States, the Midwest and the Great Lakes, the Northeast, the West and Alaska. You can find them in Montana, Idaho, Colorado, and Utah, referring to the fish here. But interestingly, not in Washington. They're an invasive species that you can harvest and take as unlimited amount because they don't want them messing with the salmon spawning. So pike as a fish, pike as a turnpike road, pike as the pike in the St. Louis 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. That's kind of the direction I went, but not all that satisfied with any of those, I would say, at this point. Cody.
I didn't have on my notes, but we should mention that in the Some More of Our Treasures section, JCB says to read Andvari's Ring.
Right.
And the whole like center point of that story is the dwarf Andvari can turn himself into a pike.
Right.
Specifically a pike. So that always seemed like a very clear and obvious connection to me. Potential connection.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You ready for, I'm going to start off the top with a pretty woo-woo one.
Okay.
But I don't know, some of my woo-woo ones you guys have been more on board with than I expected.
I like the woo.
Do you have OnX, Blake?
Mm-hmm, I do.
So OnX, if I understand, is like primarily an off-road vehicle map.
Depends on what version. There's like a hunting version. There's a back country hiking version, and there's an off-road vehicle version. Yes.
So I guess the gist of it, though, is that it is a mapping service that's used to map kind of more off-roady areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you were to take your own path, you'd use Onyx.
You could, yes.
So you can take your own path. Onyx leads the way.
Yeah.
Woo woo, woo woo.
I mean, Onyx I recommend because it shows you public lands very nicely. That it has all the public lands marked on the map, which I find a lot of value in when searching areas to see who owns what, if it's private public land. It's super helpful. So that's a quick tip.
That's my woo-woo take, is that if you read it like that for the first two, if you read the first two lines quickly, you can take your own path. Onyx leads the way. Maybe it's telling you, use the off-roading mapping service.
Yeah.
Onyx will lead the way. All right. Too woo-woo. I'll rein it back in.
Nice try.
Let's see here. This one's a little probably woo-woo too, but this is going to be another Pikes Peak specific one.
Okay.
Could not get a great picture of it. So this is just straight off of Google Maps, road view, street view, as they call it. So coming down from Pikes Peak, a lot of switchbacks on the road, and the beginning and end of each switchback has these gold circle reflective markers,
circles
designators. So you can, an X leads the way, or you can follow shimmering circles of gold, which is interesting that it would have gold colored circular shimmering circles.
I do like the reflector connection with my reflection and refraction conversation from last week.
Nice.
There may be magic in the water, so the rest of this is just going to be specific to the area I was looking at just east of Pikes Peak. There may be magic in the water. Manitou Springs, Colorado, which is between Pikes Peak and right next to where I'm looking right now is the final destination. Manitou Springs, Colorado, nestled right at the foot of the mountain. The town is home to 8 naturally carbonated mineral springs that are free and open to the public. For centuries, these waters have been treated as sacred, legendary, and highly medicinal. So that would be the magic in the water. And then, but the pike are all around would be, obviously, because it's at the base of Pikes Peak. When you go on Google Maps and you just type in pike in that city, there's like 10 to 15 pike related things,
okay,
for lack of a better term. So, I mean, again, this is very specific to this solve that I kind of came into, but it does feel like it fits with the poem. The last thing I had to say about this stanza is another thing with formatting that's kind of bugging me. Are you able to pull up that third stanza, Blake? Yep. I'm going to look at it on your screen.
Yep.
And this maybe bolsters any theories having to do with like syllable counts or word counts per line or numbers of lines, but I cannot figure out why he wouldn't put the words "but the pike" on the following line.
Okay.
It just seems like all of his sentences and lines in the poem are like ending with commas and periods, or like the end of statements. And for him to then randomly do, there may be there may be magic in the water, comma, but the pike, and then at the very end, are rather all around. Feels like it would be super obvious that but the pike, or rather all around, should be on the next line. And it would still not even be the longest line in that stanza.
Right.
So that's another thing where it's like, it's hard to know, is it just JCB did it because that's what he does, or is it intentional?
Okay. The great flag.
All right. I will leave it at that.
I just want to say, I think it's kind of interesting that ends with the pike, or rather all around, when we also there's a flutter of excitement around. Like we just have this like circular connection, especially when we end the book with like the full circle. I know we talked about like 360 degrees. So just a little connection.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we must end there for time constraints, and we'll come back to this in the near future. But I don't know, lots of ideas being thrown around. I like that you're narrowing down on an area. I think that's helpful to frame things, but it's also confirmation bias, as we're all well aware of. But
oh, for sure.
Anyway, throwing ideas out there in case it helps people have new ideas for their solves as well. So I think this is super useful exercise.
I think my biggest takeaway for the beginning of the poem is I'm really leaning towards that idea of stanza 1 is initial location, stanza 2 is distance from that location, or direction from that location, stanza 3 is the distance in that direction to get you to either a final location or close to it. And then it's just figuring out the right interpretation.
Very reasonable.
I really like hearing your guys' notes and like your approach to how you started dissecting all of this. I did not have a good chance to go through all this, which is why my notes are few and far between for Joyce Serenade. I think part of it too is just like so overwhelming to think through how to even start to approach kind of dissecting this line by line. So I'm excited to get into this for the part 2. It feels more approachable now.
To be continued.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to log off. Have a good night.
Logging off.
Searching for clues, that's my